Hey, this is Ken Kersinger, a.k.a. Jason from Freddy vs. Jason. You're listening to Without Your Head.
This is Stephanie Estes, the star of the upcoming horror film Bethany, and you are listening to Without Your Head.
All right, and welcome to the station of decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neil.
This is Annabelle Lecter.
And we're joined by a man who's played many roles. We have Zack Ward on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Very excited to be here. Very excited. This is I'm titillated.
Excellent. And we're excited to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll talk about some of your older movies, but first we want to let everyone know you have a new movie out now that you co-wrote, you produced, and you're a co-star, Bethany.
Yes, and I worked on that with a young man by the name of James Cullen Bressack, that some of your horror fans may recognize the name.
Mm-hmm.
James and I worked on a couple of films together, Restoration and Bethany. We wrote them both. We produced them both. I directed Restoration, which is on iTunes, Amazon, Redbox, and James directed Bethany. And so I got to have him boss me around on set. It was fantastic.
We've had him on the show, and he is a really young guy, and he's made like a plethora of movies.
Yes, very good use of the word plethora.
Yes.
It does remind me of the Three Amigos. Anybody else? No? I'm too old. Okay. See, Wapo, you have a plethora sweater. Do you know what the plethora is? No, Wapo, no. Yeah, James has done a ton of stuff. That guy never stops working. He's a grinding, hustling monkey. He's very talented and smart and driven.
Mm-hmm. So did you guys have like a... go on, Annabelle, sorry.
I was just going to say, how did you guys meet?
We met at a sushi restaurant. I just finished doing an audition for a cartoon movie, and I was there with my girlfriend, my fiance now, and it was Mr. Peabody movie.
Nice.
So I was doing some voices from the film, from the audition, and this dude behind me was like, "Hey, you're pretty good at those voices. Do you do a lot of animation?" And I was like, "Well, I audition a lot." And we laughed at my incredible joke, and then we started talking, and we went out and had drinks and talked more and more and more. And ironically, a movie that he was going out to direct that he'd written called Pernicious,
mm-hmm. that
he shot in Thailand, one of the lead characters, one of the guys in the script was based upon my character, Nikolai Zhinofa from Resident Evil Apocalypse. So there was a weird little overlapping of story and interaction.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's how we met.
Mm-hmm. And did you guys have like a working chemistry?
Yeah. You know, James is almost exactly half my age. So it's an interesting conversation because we come at things from two different points of view and experience, but with the same desire to create. And so we're constantly giving each other new perspectives on a process. So it reinvigorates the ability to perform a different function when someone's giving you their perspective that you never would have been able to garner because, you know, I'm 900 years old now. So basically I'm a ginger vampire.
Have you ever had a working partnership in entertainment like this one?
No.
How is it for you?
What's that?
How is it for you having this?
It's good. It's like any marriage, you know. You have to work on it, and you have moments where you want to rip each other's heads off, and then you have other moments where it's incredibly satisfying, and you know the world is filled with light and a chorus of angels. So it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Now he mostly does horror movies. Are you a horror movie fan?
I am. I've always loved horror films. The first horror film I remember watching when I was a kid was Phantom of the Paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also think one of the first films I remember was Deer Hunter.
Oh, it's a great movie.
Both of those kind of terrifying in their own right. Mm-hmm. But I've always loved horror films because it's not really about the blood and the gore. It's about the characters and what they go through and the fact that it can be done in so many different ways. And it's constantly raising the stakes for the individuals to go through the process of their own adventure. And whether it's Sam Raimi in, Evil Dead, or it's going to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or it's going to be something like Get Out. Although they're all qualified for the genre horror, they're all very, very different films, yet they're compelling and exciting and funny and sexy and sad and scary. And so it's the whole gamut of human emotion.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you and James have different, favorite types of horror movies?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, James is also very much a student of the Korean and the Japanese horror films, which I knew a little bit about, but really didn't have the same education that he does, because that was more of his generation. James literally loves the movie Old Boy so much that he's got the hash marks tattooed on his arm.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, dedicated a little bit. So when we would be talking about concepts, he's bringing a whole different library of references than I am. And then we would basically have a movie night and watch them together and express our views and excitement about certain styles or ideas, and then do our best job to steal it and make it our own and conquer Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. So for people who don't know, can you give us an idea what Bethany is about?
Bethany is in the style of the 70s supernatural suspense thriller. And it's about a woman and her husband who end up moving back into the woman's childhood home because her mother has passed and left it to her in her will. And when she goes back into the house for the first time in a decade or more, she's not only rehashing her childhood, but it seems like her childhood is rehashing her. Mm-hmm. So she's dealing with her memories that start bleeding into the present. And it's that psychological concern as to what is real and what is not.
Mm-hmm. Was there any personal inspirations for the movie? Well,
when we wrote it, James has a very he's got two sisters in his family, and my family is all over the place. I have an older half brother and a younger half sister and a younger half brother, so I grew up sort of scattered all over the place. But James had a really great affinity for the dynamic between mothers and daughters, and that's something that James really brought to the table, where it was that passive-aggressive infighting between the feminine dynamic. That was something that I really couldn't relate to. My family, the way we argue is get up in each other's face, bark, and then go, hey, I fucking love you, man. I'm like, I know. I was being a dick. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, let's go back to being us. As opposed to the subtle manipulations that he was able to evoke into the script. So I think that he was able to draw upon what he had witnessed and seen in his childhood, and I think it really gave the inner dynamic between Shannon Doherty and Stephanie Estes a really great compelling way that feels very natural and organic for anybody who's gone through that.
Mm-hmm. Shannon's really good in the movie too, and if people don't know, she plays the mother kind of in flashbacks. She's not. I don't think she's much older than Stephanie. So, but she's really good in the movie. And how did she get involved?
Well, James had directed another film called Blood Lake: Attack of the Killer Lampreys, which was as fantastic as the title sounds.
Uh-huh.
And it had that great tongue-in-cheek, silly animal monster movie type of thing. And Shannon was on that show. So he met Shannon through that, and they just hit it off. And Shannon just loves James, so she very much wanted to work with the Wonder Boy, James Cullen Bressack.
Very cool. And by the way, there is a review up on our website for Bethany, and our reviewer is usually very critical in movies, and he gave it a very high score. So.
Oh, what was the score?
3 out of 5, which for him is very good. Trust me.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. I know there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into making this indie film.
Yeah.
So any love that indie film can get is wonderful. Mm-hmm. Except for posting things for free, because that's just a complete dick move.
Yeah. I just saw, I think it was today, that one of the major websites that does that was taken down. So I saw a lot of my indie horror movie, friends who make movies were very happy about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sort of torn. If we're going to talk a little bit about politics here, I'm kind of torn between the whole net neutrality and also it being controlled by the FCC. I personally think the guy who's heading up the FCC is a douchebag. He's so fucking flippant. It's insulting. But there is a problem. Like when people are posting your work and you're not making any money off of it, they literally are coming to your house and taking food off your table. They're not allowing you to pay your rent. And, maybe I'm going to sound old school here, but I remember my little sister telling me about how she was downloading music for free. And she was like, oh, you should do that. I'm like, no, I don't do that. She goes, no, but Zach, I can't afford it. I can't afford it otherwise. I said, it's funny. When I was a kid, when I couldn't afford something, I didn't get it. I saved up. I worked a little harder, and then I had it. Or I didn't own it. That's okay. So I'm sounding like Methuselah here, and I'm like somebody's grandpa. In my day. But, I'm proud of the things that I acquire through hard work and effort. But I don't watch anybody else's movies unless I'm paying for them, and I don't listen to anybody else's music unless I buy it. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds horrible. I'm a dick.
That's a good argument to make.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's a good argument to make, though. It's a perspective that, like you said, a lot of people just don't have. Whether or not they disagree or agree with you, it's still, your point is, it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, anybody would feel the same way if they're like, you wouldn't go to a job and do work and hope to get paid. You do the work. And they can't ask you. They can't be like, hey, come here because I need your help. And you're like, yeah, I'm really good at this. Here you go for free. Unless you're actually volunteering yourself, it's just not how it is.
Exactly.
No one else
and it's one of those things, like it starts getting to the point where, everybody expects everything for free now. Mm-hmm. But the problem with that is they're not going to get paid for anything, which means they don't end up owning anything and having any sort of financial security.
Yeah.
And it's not like we live in a socialist country where, like, what is it, like Belgium or someplace where they go, oh, don't worry, you just be on unemployment for the rest of your life and you got free medicine and, free housing and lots of free food and prostitution and weed is legal, so knock yourself out. We don't live in that, man. So when you start seducing people with free, what they don't realize is they're literally taking it away from themselves. And, we're getting a little deep for a show about movies, but when you start, and I'll finish this in 30 seconds,
that's cool.
Start off with credit cards. Hey, let's go buy stuff that we can't afford. We'll put it on this credit card and we'll pay it off over time. Well, that $200 thing ended up costing you $1,200, and now you're F in the A because you're dropping all that cash, but you got it. Okay. And then that sort of extrapolated to this whole digital domain, the digital aspect. And now you have people who are going to be settling for less and less and less and less and less because there's no way to capitalize on your work. So people are kind of cutting their own throats, man.
See, I'm glad for that perspective because it's not one we always get. And this show does it. We tend to go wherever the guest goes. So don't worry about saying whatever you say. It is a good perspective. It's a very different, interesting perspective than we get from some other people. And it's something that certainly the audience, there's a value to hearing it.
Yeah, and look, I am not the most educated person when it comes to all the nuances and legalese of the political system. I'm happy to be wrong, and I'm happy to learn. So if someone wants to bark at me on Twitter or Facebook, or I don't know how you bark on Instagram, but if they want to do that, and they're not just being a jackass troll, then I'm happy to have a conversation with somebody about it, because maybe I'm wrong and I can learn another way that it can be monetized and people can succeed. But I really think that
I think
Go ahead.
YouTube has done something interesting where it used to be people would just post videos of music and you could just listen to whatever. They found a way to scan for that so that it's being channeled towards the people who actually made it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how you can monetize a video on YouTube? I think they're making it so it's forced, so it is monetized, but that money goes to who it's supposed to go to.
That would be great.
Yeah. So if they could do stuff like that and base it off of ad sales, then that would be something anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, let's solve all of life's problems.
I'm ready.
Right now.
I'm ready.
Yeah. I'm rolling up my sleeves and getting dirty. Here we go.
So, back to Bethany. I wanted to bring up Tom Green, because Tom Green's in it, and I gotta say, he's very funny in the movie, but not over the top where it takes you out of the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where he's playing a psychiatrist, and he's playing it straight, and just the kind of the fact that it's Tom Green and the voice he's using makes me laugh, but in a way that totally works within the movie. And,
thank you. Thank you. I got to give a lot of credit to Tom and also to James for that.
Because I think, if it was a little bit over the top, it would take you out, because the movie's a serious movie, but it's just enough to, hey, that's pretty funny. But he does a good job.
And also, like, there's that scene, we have a scene, not to give any spoilers away, but there's a scene between Tom and I at the kitchen table, and we're discussing Canadianisms. And the thing is, when we were writing it, James had met Tom Green, and they had become buddies, and he thought what an interesting casting choice this would be. I was like, yeah, that's awesome. And my other thought was, well, just like a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from the 80s or a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s, you kind of have to explain the accent because it's not going to go away. It's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So you have to understand, like, the movies would be like, oh, he just came in from Austria. Oh, he's a police officer from Russia, or whatever they do. So I wanted to address his accent in a way that would be funny and realistic and be social conversation at a dinner that wouldn't seem too on the nose, but would be kind of fun and allow him to play and just come off as real. And that's my thought with characters, is that the more you interact with them and like them, then the more you care about what happens to them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So is that how Tom Green got involved? Did he knew James, or James knew him?
Yeah, James shared a cigarette with him when he was editing another project. Walked out into an alley outside the production offices in Burbank, and there was Tom Green, and so they shared a cigarette, started talking, and then majesty was made.
Man, James seems to know where to be, like, in the right place at the right time.
Right?
He's really good at that.
Yeah. And what about Stephanie Estes? How did she get involved, and what did you think of your chemistry together in the movie?
Stephanie was an audition. So she came in, and James was in charge of the casting for his film. I was in charge of the casting for my film. Mm-hmm. But James, as you've noticed, James is really good at acquiring talent and putting together a good cast. So when he'd had a bunch of women come in and audition, and Stephanie really just nailed it out of the park. She just kicked the crap out of it, and she was willing to go on the journey with James and the script to make it as visceral and real and deep as she could, to the point where James had her walking around wearing wrist-cut scars because the character's backstory that she had attempted suicide by cutting her wrist. And so he had her wearing those scars in public prior to the movie being shot, so that she would have that feeling of watching people judge her and what it would be like to be that person. She jumped in with both feet. She was delightful on set. The weird thing about Stephanie is those of you who have not seen the film yet, she's very intense and she's very brooding, and there's a lot of depth of emotion to her, but she's also funny as hell. Like, she is a very sweet, funny, lovely lady, and she's great to work with because she can be dark and crying and upset in the scene, and James yells cut, and then all of a sudden she's cracking a joke.
Mm-hmm.
And then she can go right back into the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So she's a very talented, lovely lady, and I felt very happy and lucky to be working on a film with her because it just made the whole process so much easier.
Mm-hmm. And I was going to bring up that's another topic in the movie, because you have the mental issues and family and about her with the scars and being suicidal, and which is very topical today with Chris Cornell passing away. So
I'm sorry, Chris Darnell?
Chris Cornell from Soundgarden hung himself.
Oh, I have no idea. What are you talking about?
Oh, it's in the news. It was just, I was just saying that the movie, touches on suicide, and I just said it was topical with some of the news today.
Oh, I didn't know Chris Cornell had committed suicide. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Oh.
And kind of what you were saying about her going around with the scars in public to see how people reacted. I've seen a lot on Facebook today of people attacking him for killing himself. Is very didn't sit well with me. So.
Well, why did he kill himself?
Now nobody knows. It was after a show and he hung himself.
Wow.
But I guess
it
he's
wasn't
been
another
depressed for a long
autoerotic
time.
asphyxiation type of situation?
I don't think so. I think they said he's battled depression for a long time.
Yeah, that's brutal. Depression is just rough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's well, my condolences to his family and his friends. I'm sorry that happened.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but by the way, how can people find Bethany?
Bethany is on iTunes right now. I believe it is also on Amazon for streaming. I think because it just came out at the beginning of April, so it's still making its forward march into the world.
Nope.
So by all means, please check it out on iTunes and leave a review.
Yeah.
What's been the audience reaction so far for this film?
Well, it's varied. I mean, we have people who love the film, and we have people who are not huge fans. But I definitely think this is, in some sense, it's kind of a date night movie because it's not so grotesque. Like, James is really good at over the top, violent, and gore. But this film is made so that if you are a fan of gore, you're going to be satisfied. But if you're also a fan of deep story and relationships, you're also going to have that feeding into the process. So we've had some really positive response to the film. We're happy with it. It's, as an artist, whatever you look at, you always think about what you would change if you could do stuff again. But we're not Lucas or Spielberg. We're not going to put flashlights in the hands of the police during ET. So, at a certain point, I mean, there's a saying in filmmaking which is like, it's never finished. It's just orphaned.
Yeah. I want to bring up too, there's a really creepy old guy in a scene with Stephanie, and
isn't he great?
Yeah, he's
so
awesome.
Good.
I'm always a fan of creepy old guys.
Oh, good.
But I just wonder how you go about casting a creepy old guy. Like, does he know?
He's with my management company.
Oh,
okay. So, yeah. So I had sent the script over, and of course, my managers are friends of mine as well, and so when we were putting the film together, you reach out to people and you want to say, all right, who do you have for these roles that you think would be great? And they submitted him, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. If you can Google it for me, that'd be awesome. But he was fantastic, and that's a guy like, I know we may know him right now as creepy old guy, but if you look at his resume, he has been knocking it out of the park for 50 effing years, man. So here's a guy with a world of experience who came in and just killed it. And that's, I love the fact that we got to have that in the film, because also in restoration, my mother's in restoration. My mom's 82 years old. She's been an actress for 50 odd years. And being able to write for her and direct her and watch her just own it. It's just fantastic to give those people who deserve so much respect the opportunity to shine again in an environment that is, not trying to sound like the old asshole, but Nickelodeon millennials, and they want something shiny with an Avenger in it. Otherwise, their attention span can't handle the extra 12-second edit. So it's great to put those people in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't find him here on the IMDb page because I'm not sure what. I don't think he's listed under creepy old guy, but
Dr. something or other.
Dr. Merman, maybe.
And take a look.
So that might be
Dr. Merton, I think it is.
Yeah,
Dr. Merton.
Yeah, Leon Russum.
There you go, Leon Russum.
Jeez, yeah, he's been in Big Lebowski and True Grit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
dude, that's cool, man. Like that's it's like working with a legend. You bring people like that to set, and they're just par excellence. Mm-hmm. Everything they do is, they got class. Just got class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's been working since the early 50s.
Right?
That's wild, yeah. That's really cool.
When you work with someone older like that, do you tend to try to absorb some of the information that they have from their years and years of experience?
Yeah. It's more through osmosis because depending upon how much time they have on set and what their work schedule is, I don't want to stand there like a little kid going, so this one time you worked on the Big Lebowski? How was that? What'd you guys do on that? True Grit? Did you have a gun? Is it a real gun? Do you like grit? Is that grit? I mean, I don't want to be that annoying. So when you're with someone like that, they're usually really focused and easy to get along with because they know how to do the job. So really, you're just watching a professional at their craft, and they can knock it out of the park first time. It's a great thing to be around.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of grit, Jason Mitten here on Facebook, he says, after Bethany and Restoration, is there anything else in the works for Grit Film Works?
Yeah, there is, but I'm not legally allowed to talk about it at the moment.
All right. Fair enough.
Very exciting stuff. Can't tell you. I believe it's going to be a series. It's going to be a series.
Oh,
so
very cool.
Yeah, very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting.
Yeah. I have to say, I was really happy. I saw an interview with you on YouTube, and you didn't look down on Scut Farkus, and you were happy for the role, because sometimes someone has a role like that early, in their life, and like they don't want to talk about it or anything, but you seem very happy and embraced it, so that was good to see.
Oh, thank you. My attitude towards it is, like I've done some really, really big movies. Transformers was $150 million, did billions of dollars, and I guarantee you no one's going to be watching it 30 years later.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, to be part of something like, to me, Christmas Story is a perfect film. The way it's written, the way it's shot, the way it's edited, the way it was acted. And I don't put that, I'm not patting myself on the back. I was a 13-year-old kid, the first feature I ever did. That's the director. That's the whole team that goes behind it. So to be part of something that really is lightning in a bottle is magic. And you can spend your entire career busting ass to try and do something that matters to anybody. And it's not that you fail, but it's not really up to you because it takes so many people so much time to make anything, whether it's good or bad. Mm-hmm. And then you don't know how it's going to be responded to. And literally what happened with Christmas Story was a fluke. It became what it is because it got sold, the MGM library got sold to Turner, and then they started running it as a freebie because it didn't cost them any money for 24 hours on Christmas when there were no advertising, and then it just built and built and built its audience. So it became this American moment for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of amazing, to begrudge that. Like, I don't want to talk about Scut Farkus, shut up. Like, you guys are dicks. Like, how would you have that attitude?
Yeah.
That's just bananas.
Uh-huh. How old were you when they started, when they did that, when they started a show at 24-hour loop, every Christmas?
I think, gosh, I shot it when I was 13, blah, blah, blah. I think I was in my mid to late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been 83, maybe 95, 2000.
Mm-hmm. So before that time, did it have like the big following?
No, I did not. I know, I mean, it was weird because you'd be in a room and out of 10 people, one person would know Christmas Story.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year later, 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, and then eventually it was only one person who had never seen Christmas Story, and everybody else in the room was like, "You've never seen a Christmas Story? What are you crazy? It's the greatest movie ever! What a movie! It's the best!" And I got to watch that sort of evolve into what it became, and I think it was on the 20th anniversary of A Christmas Story where it was the entire cast, all the kids, Peter Billingsley, Yano Anaya, Scotty Schwartz, Ian Petrella, myself, and Darren McGavin, and Bob Clark were in, where were we? We were somewhere in LA. It was South. I think it was Orange County. And there was a big toy fundraiser using Christmas Story for everybody to show up and see the movie and donate a toy for a toy run for kids. And so we're doing photographs inside, and it's like, okay, this is cool, I guess. Good to see the guys again. Walk outside and see a lineup 3 blocks long of like 2,000 people. And it shocked me. Like, it was just, I didn't know that many people cared. That's amazing.
How does it feel to be known as, like, you're like one of the most evil bullies in movies? It's very memorable.
It's cool. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I've been watching that Brian Fuller series, Neil Gaiman, American Gods.
Uh-huh.
Do you know the show I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Anybody?
Our other co-host here on the show is a huge fan of Neil Gaiman, Troy, my brother Troy. I have it all on DVR. I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, it's great, but it's an interesting concept. I think kind of the character of Scut Farkus has become the god of bullies.
Yes.
Well, it's not me, it's the character. The 13-year-old boy with the effed up teeth and the quote yellow eyes and the goofy raccoon hat who's picking on you. I think he's now the official god of bullies in America.
It's a pretty sweet hat. Do you ever wear a coonskin hat cap anymore?
Yeah, it's not a coonskin. I had a friend of mine in Toronto who was making them out of, fur hats by recycling old furs from Goodwill and so forth.
Cool.
So, no new animals being killed because she's not a Nazi.
Yeah.
And she was putting the little face on the front. And so it had the tail on the back and a little face in the front, a big, beautiful fur hat. And she was selling them, and people were like, "We like the hat, but we can't deal with the little face. It's freaking everybody out." So she had to take that off, but she sent me one. She's like, "I kept this for you because it's Scut Farkus." Well, it's made out of fox fur, and it is stunning. Now, I would never, just for everybody out there, I would never go out into the world and kill an animal to put it on my head. Mm-hmm. But this was made out of recycled fur, and it's gorgeous. And so I wear it when I go to conventions to raise money for bully prevention programs and such not. And it's really cool.
That's very cool. I saw an interview with you where you said you and the guy who played your sidekick, like originally the roles were reversed, and then when they saw the size difference, they flipped the roles.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Mm-hmm. Before that, did you? So, well, you can tell the story.
No, go ahead. Ask your question, please.
I was just, and then you can talk about it. But I was just wondering, before the director, whoever it was, noticed, like, what went through your mind, because you had to know, like, this kid's way smaller than you. It must have been kind of strange.
Actually, no. It's because I was I went through the casting process in Toronto, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a cattle call, meaning that I go into an audition with 300 other kids, and I stand there and go, yeah, your Aunt's Tilly. Basically, that's it. So 300 kids, 200 kids, 100 kids, 50 kids, 10 kids, and I'm still in the mix. And then I get the phone call that I got the job. And we were auditioning on the new technology of the day, VHS tape. Ooh. So the director was never in the room. He was prepping the movie, and this was kind of a, it's a supporting character, didn't really require all his time. So once he had the tapes, he cast, and he had already met with Yano Anaya, who plays Grover Dale, and we had never been in the same room together. So when I got to Cleveland, and I was going through wardrobe and putting on the clothing, and that's the first time I met Yano, and he's like a foot shorter than me. Mm-hmm. And then we are brought out to set to meet Bob, because I'd never met Bob before. And the wardrobe mistress says, this is your Scut Farkus, and this is your Grover Dill. And he looks up at us and sees the height disparity. He's like, okay, you get his lines, he gets yours. Great, moving on. That's how it happened.
That's pretty cool. I hope people... Yeah. We're saying, Annabelle, sorry?
Saying it must have been a bummer for him.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, we were so young that I don't think that's what went through our heads. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think, Yano is still a very close friend of mine, and I've asked him that question, and he said, no, I didn't care. So it was, I was 13, I think Yano was 10, 11 at the time, and Yano has always been, like, a really cool guy, like, super cool dude. I don't think he was that insecure. I don't think it mattered to him. And that he told me as such. So fortunately, we just founded a really great friendship and kept on rocking and rolling and kicking the crap out of little kids like you do.
So speaking of being a kid, you mentioned that your mother's an actress and has been for a long time. How did that influence you making the decision to become an actor yourself?
It's because of her that I wanted to become an actor. I had traveled around Canada with her, film set, theaters, small theaters in tiny towns, and I was exposed to all these different people in the industry. And one time we were at Stratford, Ontario, which Stratford is named after Stratford on the Avon, the Stratford Festival, where Shakespeare would hold his plays at the Avon on the Round. That's all the classical Shakespearean stuff. So my mom was performing there, and I was watching plays, and my mom would explain them to me. And I was watching the play Taming of the Shrew, and I was waiting for a line that was kind of naughty that made me laugh. I was like 8 years old. And my mom had explained to me, that because a lot of Shakespeare was kind of like Married with Children for that age. It was dirty butt jokes, wiener jokes, booby jokes, but done in thespian terminology, or Shakespearean terminology, sorry. And so I was waiting for this guy to say this line that I couldn't wait to crack up at. And he just said, and my tail and your tongue. And everybody in the audience was like, oh, yes, very, very deep. And it wasn't deep. It was basically a wiener joke. You're going to kiss me on my wiener, is what he's saying. And it should be funny. And nobody got it. And I remember at the age of 8 watching this, waiting for this line, because it's a grown-up man talking about wieners. And I was like, that's going to be hilarious. Because I'm a little boy, and that's what little boys do, think naughty things are funny. And as far as I could see, he screwed up the joke. And I was like, what? Oh, he sucks. I could do better than that. And that was kind of the impetus to start doing it, was I could do better than that guy. And that's kind of what motivated the rest of my life.
That's amazing. So have you been able to deliver that line yourself in life yet?
You know what? I have never done the Taming of the Shrew. It's funny. I grew, my mom, I went to 8 different schools before junior high. My mom is an actress, which means no money. And we lived under the poverty limit multiple years in a row. And when I started acting, there was money to be made, and in commercials or TV shows or guest stars or movies. And I tried to get into plays at one time, and I got the lead role in Jacob Tutu and the Hooded Fang, which was a big thing in Canada at the time. I don't know if anybody here knows it. And I got the lead role, and I was told that I would be doing X amount of weeks of rehearsal, and then we'd be doing X amount of shows per day. And I was like, great. So what does that pay? And they're like, $240 a week. I was like, I can't afford that. I can't afford to do that because one commercial can make me 10, 20 times that. And I could pay the rent and my family can eat. I can't afford to go do a play. That just sounds like what rich kids can go do because their parents can afford to be like, oh, look at little Timmy in Jacob Tutu. Isn't he darling? Well, that wasn't what we were doing. We were paying for heat, rent, food, clothing. So I stepped out of even thinking about plays and really have never done them. The closest thing I ever did to a play, live theater, was Titus.
Huh.
When I did the series Titus. Yeah.
Someone asked about that here on the Facebook. Try to find it. Oh, Mickey Knox. What was your favorite and least favorite thing about working on the extremely funny sitcom Titus? Loved his character Dave.
What's that?
And they said that they loved your character Dave.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was such a great time. I learned so much from that entire process. It was such an education. The entire thing was incredible. What was hard was that I was going through divorce.
Oh.
And that made life a little difficult. But it is what it is. It was, the whole experience was rich. Christopher Titus, Jack Kenny, and Brian Hargrove were the creators of the TV series Titus. And Chris, Jack, and Brian were the head writers. And there were also like 10 other writers in the writer's room. And slowly throughout the process, I got to learn more and more about comedy, about timing, about shooting, about structure, about learning lines. In the very beginning, I had never done a TV series like that before. I'd done one in Canada called Boogie's Diner, and it was effing fucking horrible, man. Like, it was like Saved by the Bell, but much, much worse, which is hard to believe.
That says a lot.
Yeah.
That's saying something. You should look it up. Look up Boogie's. If anybody gets a chance and wants to embarrass the hell out of me, look up Boogie's Diner. And it is. And the funny thing is, Jimmy Marsden, James Marsden, Cyclops, very talented actor. That was his first acting job, and he was Jimmy Marsden back then. Now he's James. And it was just a piece of crap. But when I started working on Titus, we were doing the pilot, and Chris turned to me and he's like, okay, we're going to go to the green room and run all our lines. And I turned to him and said, well, I don't really want to do that. I want to keep it fresh for the day. And Chris looks at me and goes, yeah, about that, I don't really give a fuck what you want to do. We're going to go into the green room and we're going to run these lines until they bleed out of your eye. And then they're going to become good. So get your ass in the fucking green room. I was like, okay. And he taught me this amazing technique, which is to work at it a different way. And you find, seriously, that has affected a lot of my life and the way that I memorize, run lines, direct, write dialogue, prep myself. It's fun, especially with comedy. It allows you to really, really play.
Mm-hmm. I just looked up Boogie's Diner and.
As did I.
Yeah, I like the bandana around the head look. It's a good look.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're clearly the badass of the group.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for saying that. I was kind of the Screech of the group, I think is more accurate. Yeah. It was one of those kids shows, like that where they say I was the chef and it's isn't it funny we had a pizza with running shoes on it covered in whipped cream. You're crazy, Kirby. What'll he think of next? Oh, that Kirby. Yeah. So that makes you want to kill yourself sometime, but hey, it's a job, man.
And J.J. Bullock was in it too, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Jim J. Bullock, and my mom actually played the voice of the manager of the owner of the company, which was kind of cool as well. Yeah, Jim J. Bullock was awesome, sweet, very kind man. And one time, Jim J. Bullock, there was some breakaway glass bottles on set, or glass wine glasses, and that would be broken in the scene, and it was funny. And it's called sugar glass. That's the term for it. So Jim J. Bullock tried to eat it. It's not made of sugar. It's made of like a fiberglass spray and resin. Yeah, so his mouth is just gushing blood. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, you poor dumb bastard. You don't do that. Yeah. Pretty funny.
Damn. Let's see. David Chisholm wants to know, did you base Farkus from A Christmas Story on any real bullies you had growing up?
Oh yeah. Pretty much on all of them. Farkus to me, like I got beat up all the time, dude. I went to 8 different schools. I didn't have a father growing up. We'd go to a new small town in Canada. I'd show up. My name was Zach. I didn't meet another person named Zach till I was in the 11th grade. So, redhead, which means you stick out. Name Zach. That's creepy. What the fuck kind of name is that? New kid, so that's not helping. My dog was a miniature poodle that I was named Tinkerbell. And the reason for that is I got the dog when I was 7. It was just a baby puppy. When I was a kid, Peter Pan was my hero because he was the only person I'd ever seen who had red hair. And that's a thing for us ginger people, is trying to see someone that we can emulate that sort of reflects what we go through. And Peter Pan's sidekick was Tinkerbell. So I thought, yay, a boy and his dog, and she's a little girl, so she's my sidekick. It's Tinkerbell. My mom was okay with that. Instead of saying, like, yes, darling, let's name her Tinkerbell as a middle name, and let's give her another name like Rex or Magnum PI for a first name. And so that helped not at all. And then Tinkerbell, favorite game was to run onto the ice rink when they were playing ball hockey after school and steal the puck or the ball, which just pissed everybody off. And the other thing is I don't play hockey. So it was pretty much a lose-lose 24/7. So I got in a lot of fights. I got picked on quite a bit. And the thing is, it calluses you when you've heard the same name 200 times. When you're a little kid and someone calls you Carrot Top, you sniffle on your way home, and that guy's a jerk face. What I should have said was this. Well, by the 10th time someone calls you Carrot Top, and you're used to it, you're like, excuse me, but Carrot Tops are green. I don't know where your mom's been shopping. Oh, bird. So that was a great comeback in 2nd grade. So come on, give it a little bit of credit.
I like that. I laugh.
But you get accustomed to the bullies and the way they treat people and the way they step on people and the way they lord it over people. And also because I got in a lot of fights, my dad was a Golden Gloves boxer, and the few times I got to interface with him before he left, he taught me to keep my hands up and how to throw punches. And so when I got into fights with other kids, it wasn't where they chest butt each other. I would just punch him in the chin. Mm-hmm. So when you take your bully and you knock him on his ass and he sits there crying with a look of shock on his face, you realize that the emperor has no clothes, and it kind of galvanizes you not to take crap from anybody.
Mm-hmm. So true.
So I was making fun of the guys that I thought were weak little dicks.
Mm-hmm.
So was it kind of cool for you to have Scut Farkus get beaten up?
Yeah,
because
I think that was really the genius of what Bob Clark did. It's like, if you think about it, the scene after Farkus gets beaten up could have just ended on Peter going home with his mom. But Bob didn't do that. Bob Clark, the director, he kept it so Peter goes home with his mom, and then they're left with Farkus sitting up, sniffling and crying with blood on his face, and everybody else going, "Oh, man." And so you see, for the first time, the hat's knocked off, and he's just a little kid.
Yeah.
I think it takes the power away from Farkus, the demon of Farkus, and just turns him into a human being, which I think that's why people love the character so much, is because they were glad to see the man behind the green curtain.
Yeah.
And it's kind of before its time, as far as bullies, now it's everywhere, but that's one of the first movies I think that really had like a prominent bully in it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was also The Karate Kid. There was also Back to the Future. I think the bully... I think the bully has always been... And the bully still is. It will always exist. When somebody is that insecure that they need to put somebody else down in order to make themselves feel good, then they're going to do that if they think they can get away with it.
Yeah.
It's always going to happen. It happens everywhere in the world. But I think Scut Farkus became the poster boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nick Van Wert wants to know, how crazy is Yui Bowl?
Batshit bananas. And just for his edification, you pronounce his name Uva.
Oh, Uva.
So Uva Boll, yeah. Uva is a lovely guy, a really, really sweet man that is kind of crazy. One of my favorite quotes of his is we were shooting the film Blood Rain 2. And this is supposed to be the sequel to the original Blood Rain. So Blood Rain 2, Blood Rain Deliverance. Dun, dun, dun. And he tells me, so I shot Postal. And near the end of Postal, he's like, "Yes, so Zach, we're going to shoot Blood Rain 2 here in Vancouver. I think maybe you play the lead bad guy, Billy the Kid." So, okay. I'm like, all right, Billy the Kid. Yeah, this is Billy the Kid. It takes place in the 1800s and in the Old West. And, you play Billy the Kid. I'm like, all right. So he's Billy the Kid. Yeah, and he is like 500-year-old vampire. I'm like, what? What? How does that? Yeah. So you Transylvanian accents. So Billy the Kid is a Transylvanian accent. Huh. Okay. Sure. Let's see how that works out. And there's literally one time when we're shooting, and there's this stunt where the woman playing Blood Rain, her stunt double is inside a noose at a gallows. The floor is dropped out from underneath her, and she falls down. In the middle of falling down, she has to flip upside down and cut the rope and land on her feet. Yeah, it's a pretty complex little thing. And Uwe is sitting at the monitor, Video Village. He's like, "Come on, go faster. We're not here to make pretty pictures." And I'm like, actually, Uwe, that is what we're here to do, is to make pretty pictures that move. So yeah, okay. Yeah, lovely fella, batshit crazy.
I've heard he's not a very good person to get in a fight with either.
No. I was there.
Very entertaining. There's entertaining videos of him knocking people on their ass on YouTube.
Yeah, and I felt sorry for them because I boxed for 3 years, Cabbagetown in Toronto, and I was never great. But I got to see guys who were really good. I had 6 amateur fights and got my ass kicked a couple of times and won a couple of times. But someone who knows what they're doing and was like near Olympic level boxer, you don't have to hit somebody in the face, man. You hit them in the body properly, and everything hurts for a long, long time. And these poor jackasses with the big mouth thought it was going to be a press opportunity, and they got hit so hard they were outside throwing up in the street, and I really felt bad for them. Like, it's one of those things nowadays. I don't think anybody would say, "Oh, you're an ex-MMA fighter, you pussy, I'll take you." No, don't do that. If you're not a professional fighter or you don't have a lot of experience with it, show the respect of somebody who's gone through it, because they will hurt you in a way that really messes up your life and the ability to poop for like a week.
Ooh. No one wants that.
No, it's bad times. It's bad times.
No.
Yeah. We had Uvi on years ago. It was a really short interview, but I enjoyed it. And he gave me one of my favorite liners for the show, because he just goes, it's Uvi Bowl, and you listen to without your head, my favorite show. And then he just laughs right after, so it isn't. But it is. I enjoy it.
That sounds like Uva. That sounds like Uva.
Which it kind of made me like it even more, but yeah. Jason wants to know what led you to opening your own production company.
It's the same thing that made me want to be an actor. I could do it better than that guy. And there's a certain point, I literally saw a movie that I thought was so bad that I was shocked that it was being made, and I knew that I could do better, and what was separating me from being a filmmaker or being someone who sat at a bar saying, you know what I could have done, was actually doing. And all I had to do was kick my own ass and go do it. So I did.
Mm-hmm. What was the first movie you produced?
First movie I produced is called Don't Blink, with Brian Austin Green and Mina Savari. It's on Netflix, Showtime, Amazon. Yeah, it came out in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first movie I produced. I didn't write it. I just produced it. I produced it and acted in it. And then I did these two, Restoration and Bethany.
Mm-hmm. What was different about producing a movie than you expected?
Well, that's the thing about films. Because I grew up on sets, surrounded by it. What changed for me when I was in the producer seat was the constant influx of problems you have to solve. So really, it's producing a movie is putting together a lot of moving parts and planning as best you can, and realizing that something is always going to go sideways. And unlike acting, or if you're an actor for hire, or a director for hire, or a writer for hire, or any of those other guns for hire positions, the producer can't just throw up their hands and go, fuck it, I'm done, this is too much, I'm finished. The producer has to go get it done no matter what. You have to keep on pushing, keep on pushing, keep on pushing. Mm-hmm. And it changes your perspective towards the process. It's great. It's also horrible. It's a ton of work, and nobody likes you. But that's your job. So that's the difference between acting. Because an actor gets to walk off the set and be like, well, my job here is done. The producer sits down with the director, DP, the first AD, and the line producer, and says, okay, we're missing X amount of shots. We're literally a day and a half behind, 2 weeks in. How do we capture that? Did the generator stop working? How are we going to replace that? Do we shoot on house power? What's happening to that camera? Do we have dead pixels? Where can we fix that? And you have to come up with solutions right now. At the same time, you can never run around like a chicken with your head cut off, because then everybody freaks out. So you have to keep it inside. And even if your hair is on fire, you have to go, everything's going great. Everything is going just great. Oh, it looks fantastic. Mm-hmm. So it's a weird position.
Yeah. Earlier we talked about the torrent sites, but how important are streaming sites for independent movies like Netflix and Amazon and everything?
Yeah, I think it's changed. There's no Blockbuster. Nobody wants to go over and buy a hard copy of the movie. Mm-hmm. So, and now you have a farther reach. I think it's imperative. Whether or not people are going to spend the money to watch the film, it doesn't bother me that it goes on Netflix or Showtime or HBO or Hulu or Redbox. I think that's a fantastic outlet to get a movie into the world that otherwise couldn't afford to go through a theatrical. I think it's great. And, once you've it's Pandora's box. Once it's open, you can't close it. So there's no point in regretting it. And once it becomes an option, you have to embrace it and figure out how to work inside that media.
Mm-hmm. It just
because it does seem there's so many there's so much out there to compete with. So you've got so many other people to sort of jockey position with, but at least you have the chance to get it out there at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. There's so much content that you can get lost in the mix, but at the same time, you have the metrics, the big data that can break down the information as to where the audience is and what they'd be interested in. So I get a chance to talk to wonderful people like you. So hopefully the audience that is listening is interested, and then I can be talking almost vicariously directly to them. Whereas you couldn't do that 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I was going to know about Jason versus Freddy. How did you get involved in that? Freddy versus Jason, I'm sorry. You know, was there ever, speak of that, did they ever fight over who got maybe you wouldn't know this, but who got the top billing? Freddy or Jason?
I have no idea. I mean, that had to be a massive negotiation between the companies that made them.
Yeah.
So I was not part of that. I just auditioned for it. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting, though, because when I auditioned for it, it was a very different script. Mm-hmm. It was very much more serious and along the lines that Freddy Krueger was a pedophile, mm-hmm. and Jason Voorhees was a misunderstood autistic kid with brain damage who somehow became immortal. And it was a far more dire type of movie when I first auditioned for it. And then the script that I actually ended up shooting was very tongue-in-cheek and funny, and it hit what the audience wanted. And obviously that was a good decision because you saw the reboot of Freddy Krueger, and it was too dark. Mm-hmm. And there's a level where a man takes a little boy or a little girl down into a basement, and it's not fun. Like, there's no part of you that is like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Whatever that man's going to do to that little child, wow, that's really, somehow I'm going to like him. No. I mean, no. It's too brutal to enjoy. So, I think they made the right decision by making it tongue-in-cheek and funny and silly and hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe some other movie you can do that. But especially once all the characters are established and people actually have like Freddy Krueger tattoos and T-shirts, and it just makes you feel like a creep if you would see that movie.
Right. Yeah, you've established the entire franchise over so many different versions, episodes, follow-ups of the original. That you've really landed an iconic character. It's not exactly. You can't have Freddy Krueger be a hardcore pedophile, even though that's what's basically alluded to in the original concept, is that he killed everybody. He killed children. Okay, so here's what I always find weird: Freddy Krueger took the kids in the neighborhood, did something to them, killed them, put them in his furnace, and then the parents got together, beat his ass, and put him in the furnace. But he's the one who comes back, not the rest of the kids that he messed with, him. Mm-hmm. That's just creepy as hell. I don't understand. But once it became tongue-in-cheek and you kind of rooted for him, which you did, which was an amazing thing, but it would be like the same thing as, you can't have Scut Farkus, who's like, yeah, come on, cry, baby, cry for me. He doesn't pull out a switchblade and stab Ralphie. Like, you can't,
right.
he doesn't get on top of Ralphie and pluck out his eyeballs. Because that would be like, whoa, I don't like this guy. You got to stick in the world that you're making. Otherwise, you break your own rules, and then everybody says, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah. I like that idea, though, you mentioned about the kids don't come back. Yeah, that would be an interesting take where the kids had come back and, they bring Freddy back to to hell or wherever he's supposed to go.
Right?
Mhm.
Well, that's kind of the problem with, like, when you get into ghost story mythology. Like, this one person killed this other person, and then this other person came back and killed a bunch of other people.
Mhm.
Well, how come all the other people he killed or she killed aren't coming back as well?
Mhm.
That seems like a
Right? Because
plot for a film.
Mhm. I thought
well,
All
that
of
was,
them.
there was a part in the remake which I thought would have made a better movie, was that the parents killed Freddy, but they were wrong and he was innocent. Then it would make sense for him to come back and get revenge because he was just an innocent guy that was killed for something he didn't do. But it didn't go
right.
that way at all.
Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. And it's the funny thing about any sort of supernatural film, horror movie, at a certain point, you know, they put as much logic in it as they can, so you have a good jumping off point. But once you jump off, it literally is because it does, and you have to accept it,
Yeah.
or you're out.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason why. Why are there vampires? Well, in Bram Stoker's Dracula, it's because Vlad the Impaler defied God because he lost the woman he loved, so he became immortal. And okay, because it is. Like, you just have to accept these things.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So, going into the movie, were you more of a Freddy or a Jason fan?
Freddy.
Mm-hmm.
More of a Freddy fan.
Yeah. Why
Far
is
more
that?
interesting to me.
I agree. But why is that?
Well, I just always loved the practical effects. I always loved the goofiness of it. I always loved the long arms. I loved the way it was shot. Wes Craven, frickin' genius. Long may he reign. It was fun. You know, I remember as a kid watching the commercial for the first Freddy Krueger of Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and the girl, what's her name? She sits down into a chair and goes right through the chair. And that scared the living snot out of me. It is not a very complex technique to do, but it was brilliantly shot. And it just kept you on your toes, so nothing you think is real is actually real, and you're not sure if you're there or you're here. And when it gets goofy, it gets bananas. So Johnny Depp being tied down by a bunch of tongues, first class stuff.
Yeah.
See, James Cullen Bressack is really good with real gore, and I'm not. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes me sad. So that type of stuff, I'm like, oh, I saw, what was it? House of a Thousand Corpses. I thought it was funny. I read for The Devil's Rejects, and I was like, I hate this script. This is just, this girl is forced to do horrible things and then dies. No, I don't want to. I don't want to be part of this. This is just upsetting. I don't like the message it's sending. So, yeah, I would say James is probably a Jason Voorhees guy, and I'm a Freddy Krueger guy.
All right, fair enough. That's a good way to look at it. What movie did you have the most fun making?
Gosh, there's so many, man. I mean, Christmas Story was my first film, and I was a little kid, and I made great friends, and I got to see movie magic for the first time. Transformers was insane. The giant budget, training with Navy SEALs, doing kill houses with a Delta was an incredible opportunity. Being out there with these giant sets, being able to do some of my stunts myself, just epic. Almost Famous. Loved doing it. You know, being around Cameron Crowe, getting to become Red Bell, do the accent, have the long hair, being around all these great actors and being part of something that really had such a piece of history in it. Resident Evil Apocalypse, you know, fighting zombies, jumping out of a helicopter that's you're hovering 80 feet above a 50-story building. You're not tied in. You've got full gear on. The helicopter lowers. You put your foot on the skid. You jump out and you start shooting. And then you end up standing on the edge of the building, 50 stories high, with a wire on your back so you can't fall over and die. But your toes are over the edge of the building while the techno crane is looking up at you in this amazing shot. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm shooting. Yeah, yeah. Trust me, my testicles were in my throat because I'm terrified of heights. Terrified. Doing trade with Kevin Kline, incredible opportunity. Doing restoration in Bethany, when you're producing and writing and directing and you're making something and you're working together as a team and you can turn an idea into reality is like the closest thing to magic. So I don't know, man. They're all so exciting. They're working on Titus in front of a live audience and interacting with all those people in real time and doing something that pushes the envelope of comedy and makes people think at the same time. And those things are all really, really exciting.
Your career sounds great from beginning to now.
Yeah, it does sound good, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
That would be great.
There's something I was thinking about. You talked about for Freddy versus Jason that when you read for it, it was much more serious, and then it became more goofy. But I just think that's weird because when you would read for it, they would cast you based on, I assume, off you reading it like a serious way, and then the movie totally changes like before you start to shoot it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. My question
it was
is,
strange.
Yeah,
it was definitely odd. But I think that the decision around me being cast was based on a couple of different factors. One being that I looked like the other guy's older brother, and that I had done a good enough job as an actor that it worked. And then also I was Canadian and we were shooting it in Vancouver. So, nothing in making a movie is as simple as, well, the best guy for the job gets a role, right? No, there's a lot more politics and decision making that goes into it. So, it was an interesting pivot towards how to play it, but it didn't bother me. It didn't send me on its twist. It just had to be adjusted.
Yeah, I got you. By the way, Nick says that you did a great Freddy impression. He says, I know it was only a few seconds long, but I always thought you did a good Freddy impression in the bathroom scene in Freddy vs. Jason.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I have to be honest. Robert Englund was there, and so he was able to teach me how to walk like him and how to move my hand like him. Robert Englund told me that his entire movement style was based upon the choreographer Bob Fosse, and so he was teaching me how to walk and move like him, and he was doing my lines as Freddy Krueger, and I would watch him and I'd imitate him, and then he'd give me notes and I'd do it again, and he'd give me notes and I'd do it again, and I did my best version of a Freddy voice. Right, oh for God! But I think they looped over the real Freddy's voice. So, yeah, be careful when you compliment me on that because it actually may be Robert Englund's voice. But the physical stuff was me, yeah.
They didn't have Robert Englund in a Zack Ward costume. Pretending.
No. Oh my God, poor man. He's much better looking, even with the scars on his face.
Oh, stop.
I'm not sure what this means, but maybe I'm just out of the loop. Jeremy wants to know, how do you feel your chances are landing the character Guy Gardner?
Guy Gardner from Green Lantern. They're rebooting the Green Lantern franchise for DC, and because obviously the last Green Lantern didn't do so well. And I love Guy Gardner because A, he's a redhead, but he's also a dick, and so that kind of goes perfectly with my personality. And I would deeply love to have an opportunity at that, but let's be honest, it's going to go to some big ass name, and I'll be sitting down crying, watching it in a theater somewhere, about to put a gun in my mouth. But yeah, I would love to have that chance. I doubt it's going to happen, but the fingers are crossed. Crazier things have happened.
Yeah, very cool. By the way, how can people find you? Online.
I am on Twitter. I'm on the Twitter at Total, Total, Zack, Zack, Ward. So it's at Total Zack Ward, and the same thing for Instagram. I'm also on Facebook My personal page, I have no ability to accept friend requests anymore, but my fan page, which I communicate with on a regular basis, it's got me wearing a white shirt, black tie, sitting in a chair, looking cocky and clever. So if you see that, that one's me.
All right. I hope I tagged you in the right one. Sorry, Annabelle.
And Lubbock, Texas.
Yes.
Yes. It's going to be the 26th to the 28th of May, coming up in like a week and a half. I'm going to be in Lubbock, Texas at the Lubbock Con. So I get to meet a whole bunch of cool people. And they can come up and say hi and you know, get a picture, whatever they want to do.
How have you liked the convention experience? Because it's almost universal that when people start it, they're very concerned about what it's going to be like, and then they realize people are pretty nice.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's exactly how I thought about it. And then the more I got into it, it's kind of like going to a big party that you don't know anybody, but they kind of know you. And it depends on the person. If somebody's going to be a wackadoodle, then they're fucking annoying. But if they're really cool people, and usually, I got to be honest with you, horror fans are pretty educated. They will ask really in-depth questions. They will reference very oblique films or projects that I've worked on, and I enjoy their company. They're very nice people, and a lot of times they're really great at obviously the cosplay and building stuff, and they're very passionate about it, and they appreciate the nuances that go into the work. And 95% of the time, they're awesome. Usually, it's usually the other actors who go to these things who are the biggest dicks.
Any story? Anyone you want to name?
Nope, I am not throwing anybody under the bus, my man.
Fair enough. I had to ask, though, of course.
There's always the chance you'd be a total fool and tell us this amazing story that would get you in trouble, but, you know, I wasn't going to ask. Good job, Neil.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I'm Canadian. You know, if someone's going to make an ass of themselves, they can do it all by themselves. I don't need the help.
Have you ever been to Texas? We were just in Texas for Texas Frightmare a couple weeks ago.
Years ago, I shot a Walker Texas Ranger episode.
What was that?
I was the Sorry, go ahead.
I was just, what was that like to be on Walker Texas Ranger?
Oh, it was awesome. It was so cool. I met a lot of friends there, and I was the one guy. Apparently, so I've got the scene, and the episode is called Camp Justice. And what it is these high school guys, late teens, early 20s, who have been in and out of juvie, and now they're looking at, the next time they screw up, they're going to go to big boy prison, and it's going to demolish their life. And so Walker Texas Ranger is doing this thing where he's creating Camp Justice, where these kids will spend a week with him, and he's going to run through a boot camp and try and get the stupid out of them. And it works for everybody except my character. And my character is just a redneck dick. And I break away from the group while we're on a hike. I break away from the group, and he comes to get me, and I sneak up behind him, and I knock Chuck Norris out with a branch. And then I fall down a creek and break my leg, and I have to get helicoptered out. And at the end of it, I go to big boy prison. But what was funny, it's a rubber branch, man. It's a fake branch made of foam rubber that you hit him on the back of the head. So that's just the scene, yeah? Like, that's what they wrote in the script, and I'm doing it. And everybody starts treating me very differently. Like they're kind of pissed off at me. And someone comes up to me, they're like, you're the only guy in 5 seasons to ever knock Chuck out. It's like, what? You're the only guy to ever knock Chuck out. I'm like, well, I'm not really knocking him out. I mean, it's in the script. Yeah, whatever. It's Chuck Norris, man. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm sorry. They were very, very protective over Chuck Norris. It was very sweet.
Wow. I was going to mention that it's pretty impressive that you or your character was able to knock him out. It doesn't sound like he really defeated you in a fist fight. It's very strange.
No, because I snuck up behind him like a little bitch and hit him with a branch. in a straight, come on, let's be honest. In a straight fight, I'd never have a chance to get Chuck Norris, even with a gun. Please, it's Chuck frickin' Norris, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that's an excellent thing to have in your resume. Knocked out Chuck Norris with a branch.
Right. Yeah. And pissed off the entire crew. Lovely.
Excellent. Well, it's been awesome to have you on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, guys. I really appreciate your help in promoting Bethany. Like I said, indie film needs all the help we can get. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. James and I are very proud of the work we've been able to do, and Shannon Doherty and Stephanie Estes and Anna Har, who plays a little girl in it, is amazing. There's a lot of heart and soul in this, and so I hope people give it a chance, and then let me know what their thoughts are.
Very cool.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks. And we'd love to have you back sometime.
You guys.
Yeah, when your project is something you can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to. That would be great.
Awesome.
That would be great.
We'll hold you to that.
All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Excellent. We as well.
All right.
All right.
Have a great night.
Have a good
Take
night.
care, guys. Thanks again.
You too.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Hey, this is James Cullen Bressack, and you are listening to Without Your Head.